Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, there was only really one deck I could pick, and that is Blue-Black Reanimator. This last weekend was an absolute blowout for this deck. It put up, I think it was 10 top 8s over like 4 challenges or whatever over the last week or so. This deck is now very much the deck to beat in Legacy, which is not a surprise to those of us who thought Entomb should be banned. So, this is Munchlax 446's build. They've also got second challenge win off of this. I think they split the finals of one and they won another challenge. So yeah, deck is pretty good. And as you can see, this particular build is already teching Graveyard Hate because of how prevalent the Reanimator deck is right now. Over the last 7 days, the Reanimator deck is now over 20% of the meta of Legacy. It's kind of just come out and everyone's finally solved what the list should look like, and now it's stomping everywhere. So this is very much what we've seen before. We've got ourselves 4 Entomb, which allows us to play a 1 of Atraxa, and we're not even playing the Archon of Cruelty in this particular list. But we've got the Atraxa and the Entomb here, and then we just got ourselves a few Reanimates and 1 Animate Dead, and that's enough to just have this package in that can blow people out, whilst also just playing a really sweet tempo game with our Tamiyos, our Dauthi Voidwalkers, and our Murktide Regents, along with, you know, your usual tools, your Brainstorms, your Ponders, your Dazes, your Force of Wills, and we've even got a couple of Fatal Push in here alongside Thoughtseize, so we've got some really nice tempo-y and disruptive elements. We've got 3 Wastelands squeezed in here. We've got 2 Undercity Sewers, 3 Underground Sea. We have 1 of each basic and a whole spread of different fetch lands. Sideboard wise, we've got some null rods for the artifact deck. So we've got engine explosives in case we need to blow up a bunch of stuff. We've got ourselves some more removal in Fatal Push, Go to the Throat. We've got some more of the tempo plans. We've got some Orcish Bowmasters and Barrowgoyfs. We've got some Brazen Borrowers, which aren't in the main, which is kind of interesting. And I'm curious to see how this plays out. We've got another counter spell, we've got another piece of removal in the Shoulder's Edict, and we've got a couple of Consigned Memories. So just a bunch of like the best tools in Blue-Black, and we can just sometimes just win the game on turn 2 by putting a Atraxa into our graveyard. So you know it, you probably don't love it, but here we are, Blue-Black Reanimator. Let's see what this particular build feels like today. Please remember to like and subscribe. And once again, thank you everyone for helping me hit 5k subscribers. That's quite a big milestone, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's start jamming some Blue-Black Reanimator. For free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping on high-end singles, classic products, and full sets, check out 3-for-1 Trading. Whether it's the legacy or pre-modern that I play on this channel, or even vintage and old school, they've got you covered. Find them through the link in the description of this video and use my code COWFREE for free worldwide shipping on your first order over $500 or euros. Alright, we've got an Iron Ponder to begin things off. I think this is worth keeping. I would like to have a non-basic off of this Polluted Delta. That could be a little bit risky. So we're going to see what our opponent does, then we can hopefully work it out from there. An Elvish Reclaimer. Do I want to play against an Elvish Reclaimer? No. I think we don't want to get done by the Bojuka Bog they can get, which can mess with our Entomb plan, which is hopefully what we're working towards. Alright, I am going to get a basic island, because every other land in our deck at that point will produce black mana. So we just need to find any land, really. We did find any land. So we can put back Brainstorm, then the Tamiyo, and then put this land in our hand. It is a little bit awkward that this land can't get us a basic swamp when we've already got the non-basic island. But I've been seeing a lot more Wastelands out of these sort of Elvish Reclaimer decks. Right, so just getting rid of their Dark Depths, the crop rotation. What are they going to find here? Windswept Heath. So they're just mounting up the amount of lands they can get in their graveyard. This can also get them a Surveil land. So we have a couple of options here. I think I want to get a nice little Underground Sea here. And we're going to fire him with a Thoughtseize. And then we can discuss our next play after that. I think we've got a couple of Thoughtseizes. We want to leverage them before our opponent runs out of cards anyway. If we see our opponent is quite good at dealing with a Tamiyo, then we can just wait. Okay. Crop rotation, Green Sun Zenith, Outland Liberator, Swords to Plowshares. I think it's probably the Zenith here. If we just curtail what our opponent's able to do to impact the board, then we can kind of do our own thing. I am not going to play this Tamiyo into Swords to Plowshares. We can play the Tamiyo next turn with access to a Brainstorm in case they try and remove it. But they'll remove it in the end step so you don't get to plus it. So if they make a guy here, then it can certainly change things. Alright, Lush Portico. This is the play that I said that they would probably be looking towards. It just fills out their graveyard for lands for Might of the Reliquary and for Elvish Reclaimer, whilst also getting them a little bit deeper into their deck. A Wasteland. Yep, not a big lover of that happening to us. Now, Land Liberator, sure. Alright, is there anything we can do here? Probably not. Do we want to Brainstorm now? I think I do want to Brainstorm now and just get a little bit of extra velocity going into our turn. Alright, that worked out pretty well for us. So, this turn I would like to play Tamiyo and a Thoughtseize. So, probably just binning off this Entomb. We're not about that life right now. So, this can get us our basic swamp. And then we have the other blue source off the Misty afterwards. So let's take one of these two cards. What am I more scared of, the plow or the crop rotation? So if we take the crop rotation, we play the Tamiyo, they plow it, we untap, we play Murktide. I think that is the correct play here. So I just take the crop rotation, and then we use the Tamiyo as bait here. When the real payoff is going to be this, what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, so we get the full-size Murktide, then we can just clap our opponent with a couple of turns and hopefully put the game away. Yep, so this is the plow we got there. So basically you just traded 2 1-mana spells for 2 1-mana spells of our opponents. We don't get to fire that off because we have the swamp here. And we need blue for Murktide Regent. I will make it as large as it can be. I've played some of the blue-black Reanimator lists that have Barrowgoyf instead of Murktide, and it just doesn't quite feel as good to me. I think Murktide, not exactly a controversial opinion, but Murktide is just an absolute banger, and you should be playing this. Green Sun Zenith X equals 1. Is this going to be for a Reclaimer that can start doing some tricksy stuff? I think it is. Okay, so we've got a Ponder. We can hopefully find ourselves a little Fatal Push action, and that should be pretty handy. And Entomb. Okay, we could just really go wild here. I think this is an any order in shuffle, actually. Force of Will. Not really what we wanted, but let's crash in for 8 here. So our opponent can crack in for 5 on their next turn, which is half our life total. So we're going to have to do some adjustments to how we're playing the game, potentially. But we've got 2 Fatal Pushes to find. We've got other creatures we can put into play. We can try and reanimate something if they do swing with this. If we draw like an Animate Dead, we have the ability to like cantrip and find our way into Fatal Pushes. Yeah, they are coming in with the team. This might impact how we have to play the next turn. But this line gives us more options to win in the game sooner. A Daze. That is not the one. So now we have to kind of sit back. So what they can probably do here is phase out our guy and bash us for 3. And it's getting a bit tight. But if we don't attack with the Murktide last turn, then they phase it out that turn. So we kind of end up in the same position, except this way allowed us to have a turn where we could draw a cantrip into a removal spell and then be in a pretty good place race-wise. Alright, Thespian Stage, so they are getting close to doing some Marit-Lage-based stuff. This Force of Will is going to be pretty sketchy when our opponent has a 3-3 that's quite likely to connect this turn. If we just sit here and look at each other, it's going to be an interesting one because obviously they can tutor for a land every turn and we can draw into cantrips and stuff. This looks like a Green Sun. X equals 1. If I counterspell this, how useful is that? I think we have to. This is annoying because we're at 3 life. If their last card in their hand is a land, they play the land, phase out our guy and kill us. But if we have to deal with another Elvish Reclaimer next turn, then we're definitely cooked. So we need to just try and get through this turn and then draw some Fatal Push action. I don't think it's a land in their hand. I think they would have played this quicker and put the game away. Yeah, they can just attack with both guys and win. It is awkward. I was hoping they wouldn't see it, but we had to do what we had to do. Yeah, a little bit awkward. We just couldn't quite get over the hump there. So, Engine Explosives looks pretty good here. Just some like nice meaty Barrowgoyf stuff. Removal spells are very good here as well. This is one of those matchups where I don't really think we're doing much with our counter magic. So counter magic out, removal in. We could board in Bowmasters for some of their mana dorks, but it doesn't hit the things that we really care about. Like the Reclaimers and Marit-Lages and the Knights and stuff. Brazen Borrower also nice if we can find a place to put it. What do I not like here? We didn't show them any reanimation stuff. So they're probably not going to be aware that we're on that plan. The Dauthi Voidwalker is pretty good here. We can keep crunching. They can't chump block us. How do we fit? Because I like these because they answer the Marit Lage. What is the weakest? Maybe it is the Dauthi Voidwalker. Like, they do some stuff with their graveyard, but not, like, masses of stuff. Yeah, I think we're better off with the Borrowers. Just having a little bit more interaction rather than this Dauthi Voidwalker. It's not like it shuts down their deck. Okay, we can keep this. I'm not a big fan of having 2 Murktides here, but if we find like a Brainstorm, we can chuck one back. Alright, I'm going to Brainstorm off of this Underground Sea. We have another land in hand anyway. We have a Brainstorm, which is one of the things I'm looking for here. I would like to keep the Brainstorm safe from our opponent, which probably means we're sandwiching the Brainstorm between reanimation effects. Because our opponent is possibly going to have access to black mana for Thoughtseizes. We don't know if they're green-white depths or if they're Abzan depths. But some of the way that the depths deck plays out is very similar to Cradle Control. So it could even be like a Cradle Control build, but the fact that we saw the Wasteland and the depths makes that very unlikely. Okay, so this turn we can Brainstorm if we want to, or we can just Wasteland this little guy. Then we can Brainstorm now, get the most information about what we want to do with our turn, and then go from there. Okay, we don't need multiple reanimation effects. We already said we don't want this Murktide, so that's quite an easy selection of stuff here. So I think we want to just deploy. We definitely want to shuffle those cards. It means they're going to get to untap with this Dryad Arbor. But so be it. Choke is something we have to be aware of here. How are we planning on getting around a choke? Am I pondering trying to set up a reanimate line for next turn? I think so. Engineered Explosives is pretty good against our opponent's deck. But this would force us into having to shuffle. I think we can do better than this. Just working towards an Entomb. Okay, so we have more Wastelands. So we need to get through this turn without our opponent choking us. If they are running choke, it's probably only a 1 or 2 of. I'm more expecting something like a Knight of the Reliquary here. But if they have the choke, it could be awkward for us. We're going to sort of be wastelanding stuff. Okay, Knight of the Reliquary. Okay, it's a 4/4. So we're probably Brainstorming this turn. Wow, we got loads of these. I think, how many things have we got in our graveyard? 3. So we could Tamiyo, then Brainstorm. So we're trying to Brainstorm into Entomb plus Black Mana Source. Or any sort of Fatal Push action is fine. Like, we've got a lot of removal spells we can draw here. Okay, we didn't hit the things we wanted to hit. Okay, I guess we're just putting back the reanimates for now. We play this, and we're just going to Petty Theft this Knight out of the way, so they can't do that. And they just have to replay their turn over again. And then maybe we can do the same play next turn, but then double Wasteland them and keep them off of it. We've got some options. A Wasteland. That's pretty good. There is the Knight. They're going to Wasteland one of our coloured sources, or they're more worried about our Wasteland. They want to take our coloured sources. That seems annoying, but also the correct play. Okay, so I think we play our Wasteland. We are Petty Thefting this guy again. And then we're going to take out the Dryad Arbor. Who's the Wasteland deck now, opponent? So we've got another reanimation spell on top of our library, which isn't ideal, but we can at least play this Tamiyo. So we're going to play the Knight again. And keep playing this little merry song and dance. They've got something better than a Knight here. Apparently so. Greenstone Zenith X equals 1. Is this going to be for like Sylvan Safekeeper? Or is it just going to be the Reclaimer? Interesting they value this over the Knight. Maybe they're worried about Daze. Let's get Tamiyo in. Let's take out that Savannah. Try and keep them off of the Knight. Now we did board in quite a lot of removal. Like, we've got Go for the Throat, Shoulder's Edict, another Fatal Push. The ones that are already in our deck. Which gets a bit awkward when we don't have them. Now we did pass up that Ending Explosives. At the time, it didn't seem great, but now it could obviously be more useful. So if you use 2 Borrowers and now they've played a Dark Depths. That is a little scary for us. So we're going to plow our Tamiyo. Yep. Now we have the Wasteland, which can hopefully deal with this Dark Depths. So it should just be cracking in with the Reclaimer here. And Entomb. Okay, we have a plan. Do I want to take out this Dark Depths? Feels like our opponent has a crop rotation over there. So I'm just going to sit on this. And then my intention is, after I attack with this, we can just Entomb, Reanimate, and we should be okay, because Atraxa is a pretty busted Magic the Gathering card. Please attack me for 3. I did not attack me for 3. That is awkward. Okay, so I'm going to hit their Dark Depths at end of turn and see if they do anything here and tap down their Reclaimer to get their value. No. Okay, so they are playing around us having the Entomb Reanimate plan. I think I am still going to Entomb here. Is that true? No, I don't think it is. We can just try and deal with this with a Fatal Push or something first. A Brainstorm. That's hopefully a nice pickup, or it's us getting Brainstorm locked. Okay. Not a bad selection of cards to have access to. We don't need double Reanimate right now. I would like to Thoughtseize. I would like to have Entomb Reanimate, and I would like to have the Murktide. Which means I guess we're putting back a land. Feels a little bit sketchy, but it is what it is. And let's fire in with Underground Sea into Thoughtseize. If they got a choke, we can take it, but we're not playing around it at this point. So this is the... Oh, a Veil of Summer. Okay. So at least we don't take any damage from our Thoughtseize, because the target is not a legal one, so the spell doesn't resolve. Play a Knight. Play something. Just get out with your Elvish Reclaimer mana. But we can just play a Murktide next turn. Alright, they are tapping out here. Choke. It is the choke. Okay. This is pretty bad news. I did mention that this was an issue that could come up. And we kind of missed on some kind of mana sources for a little bit. We couldn't really develop our game plan. And our window to reanimate Atraxa is kind of past now. Yeah, I'm happy to call it a day here. Alright. Yeah, we got taken apart pretty well there. The main deck Graveyard Hate obviously was something we had to play around, even though it didn't actually come up with them fetching the Bajuka Bog. It's something that we had to kind of finagle, otherwise you could have just sent it here and it would have been alright. But let's go to round 2. Whilst I may not play Pauper, I know a lot of you lovely people out there do. So I thought I'd let you know about a great charity Pauper tournament happening in upstate New York on the 21st of June. The tournament is in support of the Trevor Project and Trans Lifeline, so sign up to help a worthy cause and have fun doing it. It's a troubling time for our trans comrades out there, so show them that you've got their back. Click the link in the description of this video for more details. Right, we're on the play. Sure, we can keep this. I think we're just playing off of non-basics here. Do I need to respect a Stifle here? Probably not. I think I'm just going to play the Underground Sea and then the Thoughtseize. We can save this to go with our Brainstorm fetch land-wise if we want to. Let's take a poke at our opponent's hand and see what's up. Alright, so we're on the mono black life over here. We don't want our opponent to Wasteland us on turn 1. So that means we need to take something and leave them with this Stalker. The double Wasteland is going to be a bit of a pain, isn't it? Interesting. So if we take the Stalker, they're just going to Wasteland us straight away. If I take the Edict, then our Dauthi Voidwalker can keep crunching and maybe gets us there. Sure, we'll try that. If they start Wastelanding us, they take themselves further away from Barrowgoyf. So that's not necessarily a thing that we have to worry about right now. There's the Wasteland. Okay, so they are just going for the Wasteland straight away plan. I thought they would want to get their pressure on board. But maybe the fact that we didn't take the Stalker kind of put them wise to that. And then Entomb. Okay. So we might just be able to reanimate a giant monster this turn cycle. So we can Daze here. But do I want to Daze a Stalactite Stalker? It doesn't seem good enough. So, end of turn, we can either Brainstorm with then an Entomb to shuffle, which I think is probably the best play. Or we can just straight up Entomb and then try and Brainstorm for something next turn. We know they have another Wasteland, which kind of makes me want to just get this island and try and Brainstorm. Okay, we found the lands we wanted. That is something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can make a Murktide this turn. It's not going to be the largest Murktide, but it's going to be fine. So this can get us the basic swamp if we want that, but we're just going to go and get ourselves an underground sea. Then we can make a little 5/5. And then we also sit on this Daze, which can stop removal spells on our opponent's next turn, things like Shoulder's Edict. So we don't have to worry about things like Fatal Push. In comes the Murktide. It does have Menace, so it does get to keep swinging. But we're obviously hitting for more on the crackback. Alright, they didn't want to play the Wasteland. So they're building up towards Barrowgoyf as a way of getting around what we're doing. Makes sense, because if they can start cracking with the Barrowgoyf, it should be good enough to keep them alive. And obviously it's not a great thing for us to block. Have they just drawn a removal spell here? And now the Goyf. Sure, that's fine. It's just a little guy. This is growing. At any point we can just get Atraxa going. Alright, so let's get ourselves... I think it's the basic swamp. Just so we can't get cut off of colours. And we get to chuck in Dauthi Voidwalker. This shuts off the growing of the Stalker. We get to attack with the Murktide for 5. And then we get to deploy a Tamiyo, which can block the 2/3. And we're sat on a Daze here. Now, Reanimate as a draw is getting worse because we're taking this damage. But hopefully this is the turn our opponent tries to make the Barrowgoyf. And then we can just Daze it. And then we can just get the Barrowgoyf with our Dauthi Voidwalker next turn. And so there's the Wasteland. They're attacking with the Nethergoyf. I will take this block. Just preserve our life total to make actual factual Reanimate a better draw. If they want to spend... Like, they can sacrifice their Stalactite Stalker. But, like, why would you do that? Alright, you're going to Thoughtseize us first. An Orcish Bowmasters. So this can ping and finish off the Tamiyo. Do I want to make my opponent pay more mana for this spell? No, not really. Okay. We're in a little bit of a bind. We can't reanimate an Atraxa here, which is awkward for us. Another Murktide. It's probably not the one we want here, is it? There's nothing in their exile zone. I guess we're just cracking with our Dauthi Voidwalker here. So we don't have enough for the Murktide yet. So might be just keeping this Wasteland around so they can pay around a Daze when they try and stick their Barrowgoyf. But if we hit once with Dauthi Voidwalker, then we can do a swing with both and that'll be lethal. And they don't have great attacks outside of the Stalactite Stalker here. I don't believe our opponent has any reanimation stuff since they banned Troll. That's not what these mono black decks are doing. But given how well blue black Reanimate is doing, maybe we'll get Troll back and we'll lose Entomb. And then you can play Troll in these decks again. Which would be nice. There is the Barrowgoyf. I will Daze this Barrowgoyf. This will put the Barrowgoyf underneath our Dauthi Voidwalker, which is a thing that we can play next turn if we want to. We don't get to interact with the Stalker. I think we're probably getting the Barrowgoyf rather than just cracking in with the Dauthi. How big is Barrowgoyf going to be? We've got instant, creature, land. So it's a 3/4, but the lifelink is pretty huge. Sure, we can't block here because it has Menace. And I will Entomb at end step here. Put this Atraxa in. Animate Dead is obviously great here, but Reanimate not so much. A Wasteland. I think we'll get our opponent's Barrowgoyf here. We'll play the Barrowgoyf. Play the Wasteland. I'm going to Wasteland their Wasteland here. So then they can't use on their turn and grow their Stalker. And then we can also get this guy going. Did I just miss lethal? I think I did, didn't I? Because we could have just cracked in for lethal there. That was annoying. That was pretty bad of me, right? So we could have just... Yeah, okay, we win the match anyway. It was a case of our diamond shoes being too tight. We had lethal right there. Now, if they have something like a snuff out, then we get blown out. But I don't think they're going to have a snuff out. Okay. So they have a lot of 1-drops. Let's get rid of those. Fatal Push is good. We've got the Go for the Throat, which is pretty good. Bowmasters kills their Bowmasters and Stalker. That's pretty good. All these things are pretty solid. This isn't a matchup where we want to be 2-for-1ing ourselves. So once again, we find ourselves trimming on the forces. Now they've seen some of our graveyard stuff. Should be less good. The Dauthi Voidwalker is pretty reasonable here. Just move some stuff around. Do I like the Wastelands here? Not especially. They are part of our mana base though. I think we can trim one Wasteland. Tamiyo is fine here. Not exceptional, but fine. I don't think we're ever getting fully off of our Reanimate plan. We can probably trim like a Reanimate is reasonable. How much do you want these Dazes versus our opponent? They are going to play around them. They have a lot of 1-drops. I think we're just going to take out the Dazes here and just have a bunch of removal and just play a bit of Battlecruiser magic. Alright, Island Ponder's not a bad way to start off. We get Dauthi Voidwalker down early. It can make things awkward for our opponents. They've already mulliganed to 5 cards. So we can take a pretty big bite out of crime with this Thoughtseize, but I'm not going to do that unless we find a land in our first turn because we don't want to get caught off of the land. Like if we Thoughtseize then get Wastelanded, we're going to hate that. Whereas if we just ponder, make sure we got our second land, also getting in underneath the Bowmasters, and then we can Thoughtseize on the following turn when a lot of the scary things that we care about are going to be around. Things like the Barrowgoyf and stuff, because they can't play in the first couple of turns anyway. Are we getting opposition agented here? They're going to Dark Ritual out an Oppo agent? Looks like they are. Now this is going to be unfortunate for them because we don't have a fetch land. Okay, let's try and find ourselves another land. We found another land. We also found a Reanimate, which can be kind of interesting. I think we're going to put it like this. So we draw the removal spell next turn. So what we can do is we can crack the Polluted Delta, and then with that trigger on the stack, we can then Fatal Push this, and then our Polluted Delta resolves and it's A-OK. If they have a second opposition agent to follow up, then yeah, you got it. You just wanted it more, I suppose. But this is a pretty good play. Okay, so we're going to lose the Fatal Push here, probably. But that's fine. We have to go for the throat on top, which is destroy target non-artifact creature, so it will hit the Oppo agent. If they take like our Barrowgoyf, then we've got to Reanimate a couple of cards down that can just get that back. All right, they did take the Fatal Push. So we're a little bit all on this opposition agent. They've only got 1 card in hand. I think our go for the throat should be enough to get over the line here. We're doing this now so that if they have a Stalactite Stalk in their turn, it doesn't grow. Obviously, they've got a Polluted Delta, but they might want to save this, but then they have to use it as a grow effect, or, you know, they're using it as a Surveil here. So it taxes what our opponent's resources are. So if they drop a Stalactite Stalker, it's going to be very hard to grow it. We can also Reanimate their opposition agent if we want to next turn, or we can just drop a Barrowgoyf and just start swinging for the fences. We've got a lot of options. We are quite far ahead. Hymn to Turak. This could work in our favour. Not really. I was hoping it could like bin the Barrowgoyf and then we could just Reanimate it next turn. But we can just maybe cast... No, we can't cast the Barrowgoyf anymore because we lost our land. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. Don't want to just... We're getting ourselves further away from Barrowgoyf if we do this. I think we're going to Thoughtseize because what would our opponent have in hand they haven't played? Would be like a 3-drop like Barrowgoyf, which is a nice thing to put in the graveyard and Reanimate. Spitting Dilophosaurus. 3 mana, 3/2. When it enters or attacks, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature. Creatures your opponent controls with -1/-1 counters on them can't block. Cool. Welcome to Jurassic Park, says our opponent. I don't think we're Wastelanding here. Because this Wasteland could be our ticket to a Barrowgoyf next turn. And I think we're in a commanding enough position that we can afford to just drop this Barrowgoyf and put the game away. Orcish Bowmasters. That does change things a little bit. We can just jam that right now. They have an Unstoppable Slasher. Do I want this? I don't think I want it. Or do I? Go on then. Let's have an Unstoppable Slasher. Like we could take the opposition agent to try and mess with our opponent's fetch lands coming up. I think just getting this Unstoppable Slasher going is pretty good news for us. Now that we have something to cast with our Wasteland as well, I'm even less incentivized to bin off the Wasteland. Shoulder's Edict. Oh, that was a bit sad. Under its owner's control. Oh no. I probably should have read this one a little more carefully. That was a bit of an awkward one. Yeah, we didn't need to Reanimate this. We could have Reanimated something that doesn't have this little Unstoppable Slasher clause. It's like the same text as Tamiyo where it goes in under its owner's control. Okay, I guess we are just going to Orcish Bowmasters here. So Bowmasters can block this a couple of times. Right, they found a land. They're not doing anything with it. Let's get my Bowmasters in. Ping our opponent for 1. Is this where we want to be? What are we looking at here? What are we trying to find off of our Surveil land? Another Murktide is not the one, so that can go into the graveyard. So this will hit us for 2, and then half our life total. So we'll go to 5. So it's effectively coming for 7. I think I'm going to attack with the Bowmasters here. And leave this one back to chump. This is entirely a problem of our own making. Not a card I've played against very much. But, you know, could always read the card first, eh? Slasher comes in. Origami goes under the bus. We can play a Barrowgoyf next turn. A Dauthi Voidwalker. Okay. That can be a little bit awkward with our own Barrowgoyf. Engineered Explosives. Right, I think we just play the Barrowgoyf here. We maybe explosives away the Dauthi. So the way Barrowgoyf works is we get to mill all those cards, but then we get to take one of them. It doesn't matter what zone they go into, but then everything else does go under the Voidwalker. So it gets a little bit awkward. Right, so I think the Bowmaster is going to be chump blocking here. I don't want to trade my Barrowgoyf for a Slasher. We can let the Slasher keep hitting us once we're gaining life, though. So they might keep the Slasher back on blocks. And if they do that, we can play our own Dauthi Voidwalker. And then if they block, then we get rid of it forever. We can't block the Voidwalker, obviously. We can also just play a big old Murktide. We do max size Murktide and then take them off of 3-drops. Takes us further away from the Engineered Explosives, being like a thing we play and crack in the same turn. I think we just play the Dauthi. Send in the Barrowgoyf. Do you want to trade here? We get rid of the Slasher forever. They do make that trade. They got a removal spell for Dauthi Voidwalker. It's great here. They did not have a removal spell for Dauthi Voidwalker. Do I want this Wasteland now, or do I want to take our opponent off of 3-drops like Barrowgoyf? I think we need to take them off of 3-drops like Barrowgoyf. So let's do that. We're going to see like an Oppo agent here. No, just floating as good practice. So next turn we can jam the Murktide. And that little hit of life we got should counteract any of the pressure from the Dauthi. Because it puts us to 13. Right, so they're just going to go and get our Barrowgoyf now. That's fine. Weird game. Entirely still playing this because of my own mistake. Should have reread the return clause of the Slasher. A Dark Ritual. That's a little spooky. We got here Shouldered. Leyline of the Void. Okay. I'm not going to play our opponent's Unstoppable Slasher. So we could just make a big Murktide, which can then do some stuff into the... Yeah, they don't really want to do... Alright. I was going to say, they don't really want to mill themselves with the Barrowgoyf. So this is an 8-8. So we attack them for 3, they go to 10. Then they go up to 14. Then we attack them for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with the Barrowgoyf, with the Bowmasters. So not quite there. I think we are attacking with the Voidwalker here. We don't have a third colour for explosives. But we have Brainstorm. We can try and brainstorm our way to a solution to this problem. An Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, the Brainstorm plan not looking so hot right now. Am I trading Barrowgoyf for Murktide? I don't think so. Are you going to mill yourself and put a bunch of stuff into the void for me? They are. So they can get back this Barrowgoyf. But we can get access to their Shouldered's Edict. That's not the best. Because we don't have the mana to pop our explosives or anything. I went to a wedding at the weekend. I'm clearly not on my best still. Reanimate. What can we reanimate here? We can reanimate their Spitting Dilophosaurus. That's pretty good, isn't it? Welcome to Jurassic Park to you, opponent. So this puts a -1/-1 count up to 1 target creature. So we kill the Bowmasters. And then this gets us their Shoulder's Edict, which cleans up the Barrowgoyf. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature of their choice, so that will get rid of their Barrowgoyf. Let's get to Brainstorm here. Get ourselves another creature. I've definitely played this round pretty horribly. Or this match pretty horribly. Well, actually, the first game wasn't great either. And now, even if they play a Barrowgoyf, which they might not be able to do, they've got lethal coming in, and they don't get the life gain. We've got a blocker. We've got 2 blockers for their Orc army. So we don't have to worry about any sort of pressure on our life total. Should be the game, I think. We made this one a lot more difficult for ourselves than we had to with that bad play on the Unstoppable Slasher. They're going to play a not Murktide, a Barrowgoyf here. Then that's nothing. We've got the GGs in chat already. Yeah, they got another ley line in hand. Alright, so we got that match. We made it difficult for ourselves. We showed the power of the deck to carry us through. Let's go to round 3. For the best Eternal experience this summer, check out Eternal Mania in Hasselt, Belgium from August 8th to 10th. Aside from hosting the European Legacy Masters, they have a whole host of other tournaments from team trios to old school and pre-modern. I will be there playing Legacy and hanging out as a special guest. This will also be the first event that I'll be giving out my own special Marit Lage tokens, so why not come down to enjoy an awesome weekend run by one of the best TOs in Europe. Double Underground Sea. We also have this Atraxa that we have to kind of put away. There's a lot of steps here, but this does what? So turn 2, we Brainstorm this back. Turn 3, we Reanimate. Like, it's probably fine. It just doesn't feel great. I'm gonna keep it, but we do need our Brainstorm to resolve here. We only have the one big monster to fetch. We don't have something like an Archon here. Alright, okay, Defense Grid. Well, that's probably bad news for us, isn't it? This is going to be Karn Forge, which is another deck which has been absolutely smashing it of late. A Scalding Tarn. I'm not inclined to throw away a land. Okay, are we dead this turn, opponent? Urza's Saga, you say? A Grim Monolith? Are we looking at the One Ring? I think the One Ring probably just beats us. Manifold Key. Could still be the One Ring. We've got plenty of mana over there. Assault Monolith. Okay. 5 mana. Is it One Ring time? Or is this a Kozilek's Command? It's a little Kozilek's Command. Okay. Manifold Key. So we can... What can we do here? I guess we're probably having to Brainstorm. They put 2 of their cards on top as well, which is a little bit spooky for us. So now we have like a glut of land, really. I don't really want to draw all of these things, so I guess we put back... I guess it's Undercity Sewers and Atraxa, and then we fetch and Entomb. Because that way we can just fetch and clear the cards and it ends up being better for us. But we have to fade whatever our opponent's next turn is. It's almost not even worth entombing here. We don't want our opponent to know that they need some graveyard hate. But what are we supposed to do? Our opponent's just so far ahead already. We can also just do the Entomb play next turn. Alright, I'm going to Ponder instead. We can't pay around this defense grid. Wasteland. Now these are things I can work with. So we can shred the Saga. They only get 1 construct. The 1 construct that is unblockable with a load of artifacts in play is good. And they kept the 2 cards on top of their library. I'm not sure why they're sacrificing them now to untap their Monolith. That seems interesting choice. Oh, sorry, no, they're doing that because they're using the key. Ignore me. That's perfectly sensible to use the key so you can untap the key and use it more. Alright, so they've got a bunch of mana. They've got a Kozilek's Command that's stacked on top of their deck, so they're probably in a good spot here. There's a lot of mana coming our way. This is just going to be a Karn and Lattice lock. Just a big Kozilek's Command for 11. Just a big K command for 11. So we're not technically dead. I do have enough mana to play Karn and play the Lattice though. And then we just don't get to play the game anymore. Kind of feels like a bit of a flashback to the past this last weekend with how these decks have been doing. So like Karn Forge, Blue-Black Reanimator and Oopsal Spells are like the best things in Legacy right now according to the stats of the last week. So it's kind of an interesting one. Because some of those decks have had bans. And they're still the best thing to do. There's Karn. And then just going to go get the Lattice here. And that is going to be game over. Because we don't get to tap any of our lands for mana anymore. Oh, Trinisphere. Do they not have the Lattice luck? Like, this is obviously very bad for us as well. I'm just very confused as to why they didn't just immediately win the game. Do they not have a Lattice in their sideboard? That seems wrong to not have a Lattice. Because you generate so much mana, as you can see here, that you can just dig for your Karn and just end the game in a situation like this. A Wasteland. Okay. I guess we'll take out the Saga and hope that they don't have access to... Yeah, they're going to get one construct here. Why do they not lattice us? It's very confusing. This game is over. I just want to see what they get with this Karn and then we can scoop. They should have got the lattice last turn. Like, we're under a defense grid, so there's no way we interact there. This gave us potentially a turn to draw an answer for Karn, like a Shoulder's Edict type card. Yes, they did have the lattice. Why didn't they do that last turn? Very confusing, that one. Maybe I'm missing something, but it looked like they had the mana to do it. Okay, so... Engine Explosives, Null Rod, Force of Negation, Consign to Memory. Just a bunch of good stuff. The Orcish Bowmasters is pretty reasonable. We want to be able to kill their Karn. We want to be able to kill their Glowing Fleshraker. So this might be one of those games where I don't think we have the time to do Tamiyo stuff, and we're also turning off the artifacts, hopefully. Is this a game where we get rid of our reanimation package? It could be. Let's see what that looks like if we take out our Entombs and our Reanimates. Our Animate Dead. So that leaves us with boarding in some of these things. So Brazen Borrower can be useful. We'll have a couple of Barrowgoyfs. I think this is where we want to be for a matchup like this. Just maximum interaction. Rather than trying to assemble our own A plus B. Just kind of stop our opponent from doing their thing. Like, the Entomb Reanimate plan is definitely very powerful here because it can just get us a big thing that finishes the game quickly and gets us the resources. But it's going to make our hands really awkward when we can just keep a hand that's got lands that don't come into play untapped. Okay, let's mulligan this. We need to be able to do stuff very early on in this game. Okay, so we have a bit of counter magic. We can ponder our way for more removal. We've got an Engine Explosives, blow up a bunch of keys. This is reasonable. I think we're probably looking at putting back... Like, the Murktide is how we're planning on closing this game. So I think... is it the Murktide or is it the Go for the Throats? I think we'll put back the Murktide, actually. We've got a selection of threats, and any of them are going to be good enough. Alright, so they brought in a ley line against us. That doesn't matter, and I'm very glad that... Well, it does matter against Murktide, but I'm very glad that we don't have to worry about that because we put it back. Okay, let's ponder our way towards some interaction. These are all absolute bangers, so let's have all these. So next turn we can Wasteland and Thoughtseize, unless we have to Daze this turn. The things we'd have to Daze would be, like, the defense grid, I guess. Right, I played a Nexus. That's not really how our opponent wants to start off their game. That's good news. Right, let's Thoughtseize our opponent, and then we can go from there. Like, we're almost certainly Wastelanding here. Defense grid, Karn, bunch of mana. Like, we probably should just take the payoff. That's usually the sensible thing to do. And I will tap this, playing a Nexus. So they can't put a defense grid into play just yet. And we also can try and clean up the defense grid and the grid monolith in one go with this Engine Explosives down the line. Alright, Ponder, try and dig us towards another land, please. There is another land. I guess having double Daze isn't the worst thing in the world. But I think we're just going to take the land here. And then surveil land in our opponent's turn. So the plan here is... Maybe they, like, Grid Monolith and then play the defense grid. And then we can snap them both up. Ancient Tomb. Defense grid, yep. No, we just want more land here, really. A Wasteland. Okay, that is more land, isn't it? Let's strip away this Ancient Tomb. Let's play this Engine Explosives on 2, and then our opponent's in a bit of a bind whether or not they play out this Grim Monolith into it or not. Our Daze is off, but that's okay. So you can play like a weird little game of chicken with our explosives here. Urza's Workshop, okay. Just going for the Monolith. They are going for the Monolith. They got the Mox Opal. They're going to play a big scary 4-drop that we don't get to counterspell. The One Ring. That does constitute a big scary 4-drop. Okay. We needed to kind of fade this one turn, and then I think we'd have been in a good spot. And now we have to try and overcome the One Ring. Polluted Delta. Okay. Well, I guess we are probably blowing the explosives this turn, getting a Surveil land, then going from there. I believe our opponent is quite heavily favoured now they have the One Ring going. This card is just, you know, very much I win the game button in a lot of games. I suspect this card will not be legal in 2026. That's my hot take. Okay, so we have a Mystic Forge. Okay, I think we blow this now so we can counterspell this. Alright, let's Surveil land and see what we want to do with our Daze, because maybe we want to pick up a Surveil land here, or maybe we need lots of mana next turn. Another Daze, that's not really going to cut it here, is it? Okay, I'm going to Daze this. And what am I bouncing? If we bounce the Surveil land, we don't have the option of applying pressure. So I think we're going to bounce the regular land. Because we just want to be able to make something to pressure our opponent's One Ring. Because we either need to drop a Null Rod or start attacking our opponent and punishing them for losing their life. Okay, this is a complete blank. We will pass. I could bounce this, but I don't think that's a great idea. I think I'd rather get the pressure in. Although they don't have to necessarily have the mana to replay it, but they should have the mana to replay it, right? Their deck is just full of mana. I think the pressure route is what I'm going to go for here. I don't feel great about this. I think our opponent's going to absolutely wombo us. This deck is very good. I think people oversold how bad it was for Vexing Bauble to be bad. Like, yes, Vexing Bauble was like, you know, you just get to do your thing for free. But Defense Grid exists, and then you also replace some of those Vexing Baubles with more payoff cards. And if your opponent doesn't have the interaction, then it's just as strong as it ever was. You know, you sometimes get like turn 2 Karns and all sorts. I've seen turn 2 Karn and Lattice on the same turn, which is pretty scary. Disruptor Flute. Right, I'm going to play this Borrower. Just get my damages in. I don't think our opponent has a land here. Because they haven't used their One Ring yet, I suppose, so they can find one there. I'm not sure why they didn't do this first, because then they can make their lands tap for more mana in the first place. Unless they're worried about Orcish Bowmaster. They've named Orcish Bowmaster. Okay, so that's what they were worried about. That makes some sense. But I think Orcish Bowmaster probably isn't even good enough to stop what they're doing here. I'm drawing so many cards. City of Traitors. They're going to play a Fleshraker and pass, or is this just going to be a Karn? A Mystic Forge. Okay. We need them to not have zeros on top. Alright, so they're paying a life. That kind of helps with what we're trying to do. Oh, that's a very, very nice hit there. That's about the best draw in our deck. They're going to have a bad time. So I thought we were losing this game. I think now we are winning this game because of the Null Rod. This shuts off the One Ring, Mystic Forge, Mox Opal, Grim Monolith, and the One Ring is going to keep burning them for 3 a turn. Now they can still kill us with Glaring Fleshraker and Mystic Forge's static ability, where they just play everything off the top. But next turn we hit them to 5, then they go to 2. So we're pretty close. But Kozilek's Command exists, which can take away our pressure and buy them another turn. Glaring Fleshraker resists, which can just kill us out of nowhere. But once we get to untap, then we have the ability to fire off Go for the Throat on their Glaring Fleshraker. But we need to untap. This feels like a big K command. They can also just Kozilek's Command and then do some stuff with Karn. They can turn the One Ring into a creature, and then they can Kozilek's Command the One Ring if they need to. Okay, so getting rid of our Borrower and digging. This is going to buy them another turn or 2. Murktide Regent not really doing anything for us. But it is a blue card. We have forces in our deck. Another copy of the One Ring. So this resets their other copy so that they're not taking damage. So that's our win condition gone. And then they're eventually just going to draw out this with the Mystic Forge. Okay. We need to find a threat here. We need to find a threat we can cast. I should have been more specific. Apologies, deck. You did deliver what I asked for, but not exactly. Just how good is the top of their deck and how much can they rip with this Mystic Forge? Like, if it's good enough, they can play multiple spells a turn, then we're going to struggle. Alright, so another tower is exactly where they want to be. This is a whole boatload of mana. They can play something like an Ugin. They can just do a big Kozilek's Command and dig for what they're looking for. They're leaving up 1 mana to play around Daze. Kozilek's Commands. They're making a bunch of mana and digging a bunch. There is a Fleshraker. So our opponent's going to cast a spell and then we're going to go for the threat this. This leyline is doing a pretty good amount of work, to be honest. What are they going to name with this? Petty Theft. Okay. To be fair, if I draw a Borrower, I'm playing a Borrower as a creature at this point anyway. I'll take key, you carry on. You just got this Null Rod holding back the tide. Where did they put all their cards? 5 on the top. They should be able to win 5 cards that they want. Okay, we've got Force of Negation, so we can hold back the next big scary thing our opponent does. And I guess the thing we're most worried about is Karn, that we can hit with this. Because Karn doesn't care about Null Rod. Well, it cares a little bit, but it's able to win without it because it can just go and get Lattice and then start turning stuff into guys. So let's see if they play a Karn or not. There it is. We're going to pay for this because that way we can keep 2 cards in hand and represent Force of Will blue card, as well as having some cards put back with the Brainstorm and just having cards for Force of Will in future. Right, so we nailed the Karn. What next, opponent? We've got an Ugin. Ugin seems like an interesting upgrade for this deck. Just, again, it's just another big payoff that is hard to interact with because it gets value just when you cast it. Okay. Our opponent's halfway through their deck. We've got rid of a decent number of their win conditions. Fatal Push. That is a really awkward one because we're not going to have Revolts. This isn't going to be able to hit the Fleshraker. Now, we can take out one of the spawns, but that doesn't seem like a very useful thing to be doing. We're just playing top deck wars, but our opponent can play all the cards off the top of their library. Bit awkward. But a lot of the cards don't do anything as well. So, Shoulder's Edict. Okay, this is good. This can answer some stuff, but we need to find some pressure. I'd love to just have a Borrower, then we can hold up our removal and then play Borrower as an attacker. Have we got through all the Cosset's commands yet? 1, 2... Just 2 of them. We've got rid of 2 Karns. They kept 5 cards on top and we're still alive. I'm very confused. Let's do a Brainstorm here. Let's put away these Murktides. Ponder. Let's go any order and shuffle. And we drew the Fatal Push that doesn't really help us out here. Maybe we'll get 7 mana and hardcast a Murktide. It's possible. But we can't Petty Theft away the Leyline because of the Disruptor Flute. We do have Orcish Bowmasters in our deck. And we're nearly at the mana to cast it. Obviously, we can cast Petty Theft if we want to pay 3 more mana for it, but we're not at that stage yet. Alright, our opponent finally found something they can deploy. So they got this as a Saga. That's going to start making some constructs. That's a little bit sketchy, but we do have a Fatal Push that answers one, and then we have a Fatal Push that answers the next one. Karn the Great Creator. That's not my best friend. What are you going to reveal? I don't want to Shoulder's Edict this until we know what they're getting. Like so until our opponent shows us what they're getting, because otherwise they could change what they're getting based on whether we eat it. Because if they get a Lattice here, we can take out the Karn, and there's only 1 Karn left in their deck, and the Lattice becomes a little bit less useful. Disruptor Flute. Each opponent sacrifices a Planeswalker of their choice. Okay, so there's only 1 Karn left in their deck, and 3 Fleshrakers. So let's hope the bottom 3 cards are a library of Fleshrakers, I guess. Force of Will. Okay. We don't have one of those. Oh my lord. They're tapping a load of mana here. This is going to be Kozilek's command for their library. They're leaving 3 to play around a Daze here. To play around triple Daze. Well, they might as well. Like, this should be enough cards to win the game, right? This can just Lattice lock us. There it is. Our opponent's going to spend ages doing this. There is a chance we don't lose here, but it's pretty slim because they get to stack their deck. They do only have 7 minutes. They should be able to win from here, though. Right, our opponent's finished stacking their deck. They've played a defense grid. And now we're going to see another defense grid. Okay. Is that the best you could do with your deck stacking here? Like, 1 defense grid is enough. So they got a Fleshraker here. Am I dead this turn? I should be dead. They stacked their deck. We will F6 here. But they did stack 5 on before and then didn't really do anything for like 5 turns. So we'll see what comes along here. They got another Fleshraker. So all they need to do is cast like 3 spells, something like that. Another Fleshraker. Okay. So these are all going to make tokens each time, and each token is going to ping us for 3. So I think they cast 1 spell here and that kills us, right? They get 3 tokens. Each token hits us for 3. Yeah. Smashed up by the Carnforge deck. Let's go to round number 4. I like the Thoughtseizes, but the rest of our hand is not great. I think we have to mulligan this. Okay, this is kind of the same hand in some respects, but better. So I will take same but better. And we also just get to do the busted thing here. So we'll keep this. I think I'm going to bin off... It's obviously one of the blue cards. Which one, though? So Brainstorm is our best way to recover if things don't go well. Or we can just hold up more protection. Just have flexibility in our options. I think we're going to go for the flexibility of protection. Just play this and pass. So we want to be playing on Underground Seas so that we can trigger our Daze more easily. A forest. A Green Sun Zenith. I think this game is already over. Unless they... Well, even if they have the endurance, we don't even care about that. Right, so let's go and get ourselves an Underground Sea. Let's cast an Entomb. Put Atraxa in the bin. Let's reanimate Atraxa. Okay, so Wasteland I like the look of here. I will take a Fatal Push. I will take a Ponder. Then we get to push our opponent's Dryad Arbor, and we're still sat here with Force of Will and Daze. Our opponent is... Oh, okay, so we're looking at like a Cloud Post deck here. Do I care about this Disruptor Flute? Maybe? It's relatively free to do this. We've still got this Force of Will. They can have an Elvish Spirit Guide, but then we get an Elvish Spirit Guide out of our opponent, and then they don't get to cast anything. This does look like Cloud Post. This is a matchup where we want to send it and bash our opponent to death pretty quickly. I'm not going to Ponder because this is already our blue card for Force of Will. I don't want to risk not having a blue card because we just need to protect the Queen for a couple of turns, and then we win. So next turn is a turn where they, or unless they have a Spirit Guide here, is a turn where the One Ring comes down. Yeah, they've just had enough. Turn 2, Atraxa, surrounded by counter spells. Pretty good. So our opponent is probably running the One Ring, so I'd like some Null Rod action. Orcish Bowmaster is pretty good against that sort of stuff as well. I do think they're running Cloud Post, but they're a more green heavy build with Green Sun Zenith in. So we're going to want Force of Negation here. Probably want this sort of stuff as well. I do like the reanimation plan. I don't particularly like Tamiyo here. It seems quite slow. The Daze definitely has diminishing returns. They are trying to make some 4-drops though. So it's kind of an awkward one. But I don't think I want the Dazes. The Dauthi Voidwalker has an interesting wrinkle on this game because we can just like Thoughtseize and Emrakul out of our hand and win the game that way. Which is something I enjoy quite a lot. I think I'm going to take out one Murktide and try it like this. Now if we've mistaken what our opponent's doing, then we can obviously tweak things a little bit. Do I want to have the Shoulder's Edict so we can answer like a Karn, maybe? Is that better than a Borrower? Possibly. Probably better than a Dauthi Voidwalker, though. The black on the Dauthi Voidwalker sometimes can feel awkward. Okay, I don't think we can keep this. This is a very similar but better hand. I'm going to put back the Reanimate. We don't need to worry about that for now. We can answer some of our opponent's stuff. We've got a Wasteland here. There is the Cloud Post. Take that out. Then we can untap and deploy a land that can consign to memory for us. An Elvish Reclaimer. That one is kind of irritating. We don't have a removal spell. Do I think we can fish for one? How many do we have? Like 3? I'm not a fan of having to do this, especially since it costs us a Brainstorm. But that card on its own can just get them enough stuff to win the game. And that is a little bit scary for us. So this can be our Surveil land. So we can try and dig for something else. But if we need to, we can consign to memory. There's this tower. I wonder if they've got Primeval Titan. So we've got the Green Sun Zenith. It's probably like a one of. It's been a long time since I've seen a Primeval Titan. Let's go and get ourselves a Surveil land. A Dauthi Voidwalker. It's fine. But I don't really want to play it right now. I think we still keep this one. But we can't afford to tap out the Consign yet. Disruptor Flute. What are you going to name? Consign to Memory is a pretty good one. I suspect they're going to name Force of Will. Or the Wasteland. Okay, that makes a lot of sense too. I will play out this Surveil land, potentially. And then we have another Surveil, and then we can play the Dauthi Voidwalker whilst holding up the Consign. We don't really need to have kicked Consign, because that's not really where Legacy is at right now. Like, occasionally, things like Ugin. Okay, so this could be a Dryad Arbor. But generally speaking, when you want Consigns is when... Oh, sorry, when you want to kick Consign, it's basically just like an emergency, really. It's not really something that we are playing it for. We're playing it just as a 1-mana counterspell. Alright, I would very much like to have this card that kills our opponent's creature. Let's just take out their Dryad Arbor. If they wanted to fetch it, then it's got to be good to blow up as well. We can't Wasteland it, but we can shoot it down. Still hold on this Consign, so we can hit the One Ring, something like that, or a Karn. Glimmer Post. This advances their mana a reasonable amount. 3 mana. 4 mana. Is this the One Ring? It's Karn. Say no to Karn. No 4 drops for you. A Ponder. I will cast this Ponder because we could find a reanimation effect. I think there's an Annual Orange Shuffle. Found another Bowmasters. I think I'm just going to play the Bowmasters right now and get additional damage this turn because we do need to clock our opponent's life total here. So this will make the One Ring a much scarier proposition for our opponent. This gives us more things to pressure a Karn with. Okay, another Karn. What are they going to find? A Walking Ballista. I see. This is going to take out one of our Bowmasters. I think I'm going to Ponder here. This is not really where I want to be. There's an Orange Shuffle. Thoughtseize, that's pretty good. Alright, I'm going to attack everything at the Karn here. So I'm going to do this and preserve the Karn, sure. I'm going to get this Dauthi Voidwalker. Just more pressure. So this Karn can end itself to go and get an Ensnaring Bridge and buy themselves some more time. And that gives us the ability to get a Karn. Although we didn't have anything worth getting out of our sideboard with a Karn. Explosives sometimes could become up useful. But I guess if we had a Karn, we could shut off their artifacts. I don't really think that's as good as just having the Dauthi Voidwalker beaten down. Okay. What are you going to find? Is this like a One Ring? Or is it... It is an Ensnaring Bridge. Okay. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. I'm going to Thoughtseize my opponent here. I know they've only got 1 card. Oh, an Emrakul. That goes underneath my Dauthi Voidwalker, doesn't it? That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Let's cast an Entomb. Let's go and get this Atraxa. Let's reanimate Atraxa. See if we can dig our way to Brazen Borrower. No Brazen Borrower there. Okay, so I think we want a Ponder to try and dig to Brazen Borrower. A Force of Will to make sure we don't get busted up by something. And then I guess you take the Null Rod because it's kind of free here, and the Polluted Delta, and then might as well take the Animate Dead because that's free as well. Probably this. So I don't really want to Ponder because it's kind of our blue card. We can't attack our opponents. I think we pass. I don't want to play the Emrakul just yet. We can play it next turn. We can answer anything our opponent does here. Once upon a time. You go ahead. Elvish Reclaimer. Do I care about Elvish Reclaimer? Probably not. We don't have any more Surveil lands. Right, so we cast the Ponder here. Okay, we win the game. Cool. Sacrifice this. I would very much like to cast your Emrakul, please. Our opponent's scooping. They know that we found the Borrower. Okay. 4 rounds down. We are currently 2-2. We got 1 more round to go. So let's see if we can put positive on the board. Alright, Tamiyo and a little bit of removal was a fine way to start a game of Magic the Gathering. We can also play on basics this time around. Playing on basics does mean that we can't just top deck an Entomb and go ham with it. We need a little bit more breathing room to get that set up. Right, just to Ponder. What flavour of Ponder deck is our opponent? Okay, so now we have drawn the Entomb. We can just go ham if we want. Or we can try and bait our opponent's interaction out using this Tamiyo. And then we just have the 1-2 punch afterwards. Or the 2-3 punch, I guess. Our Tamiyo is our first little buttering them up punch, if you wish. We're looking at Omnitel, or are we looking at some kind of Nadu list? Okay, looking more like Nadu. You want to plow our guy, or are we going to prismatic ending it? What do you fancy? Right, there it goes. I'll play this out. This gives us the ability to fatal push with Revolt, and then we can also fire off this Entomb, and then next turn we can reanimate, and all that is around a Daze. Obviously we can't do all of it around a Daze, but we can choose what we're doing around a Daze and whether or not we're holding back. A Brainstorm. Sure, good cards are good. Let's cast an Entomb. See what our opponent thinks about this one. Okay, we're just in with that, are we? That's nice. I'm going to get Surveil Land here. See if we can just dig to a little bit of like protection, like a Thoughtseize would be great. Brainstorm is a good way to rebuild if this goes wrong. I will keep the Brainstorm. Oh wow, we're just in with it. That's pretty good. Are they going to plow it in response? No. Okay. So, I will take a Force of Will, a Ponder, and an Underground Sea, or a Fetch. We've already got Fetch. I'll just take an Underground Sea, it's fine. Alright, our opponent's just scooping. I don't really know what our opponent's running. We've seen Plow, we've seen Brainstorm, we've seen Ponder. This could be Breakfast. It could be Nadu mid-range. Uncertain what we're working with here. And not knowing what we're working with makes it a lot more difficult to sideboard. I would like some Orcish Bowmasters. We know those are going to be good. I don't know if these Dauthi Voidwalkers are going to be amazing or terrible. Weird place to be. I think we definitely want Thoughtseizes. We want to be able to know what our opponent's up to, because I don't really know right now. They just get a lot worse on the draw. I'm just going to do a little sideboarding here. Like, deck is very strong. We don't need to manipulate it too much. We'll try what we have here, and then we can always readjust for game 3. I don't want to just board a load of stuff and then be like, oh no, we've boarded in stuff that's no good. We have to mulligan this one. This hand is not great. I like having the Thoughtseize, and I like some Surveil Lands. But like, we are struggling a little bit here. I think we're going to go to 5. Alright, this is much better. We'll keep this. Don't need Animate Dead, and I'm going to put away this Wasteland. And we can just play a Tamiyo and potentially flip it turn 2, or we can play a Ponder and then play the Tamiyo on turn 2, ready to flip straight away. Just depends what we think is going to be the useful way to approach this game. Delighted Halfling. Okay, so we're very much in Nadu mid-range territory. We would like our opponent to spend time and resources on our Tamiyo. Reanimate. That's interesting. Okay, let's get the Tamiyo in. And then next turn we can start doing some pondering and brainstorming. If our opponent wants to spend resources on this, I can live with that. We also might just draw into Entomb, might be able to send it. Alright, a Nomads in Core. Sure, that is a counterable one, but we don't have any counter spells right now. So next turn they have uncounterable Nadu, potentially. Which is a whole thing. Let's attack with the Tamiyo. Get ourselves a little free clue for later. And then we're going to be casting a Brainstorm, looking for things like Thoughtseizes and Fatal Pushes. There is one of the cards that I just said I wanted. Good. I don't think we're in Reanimate territory right now, are we? Flip our little friend over. She can go upstairs on that one. We'll go and get ourselves an Underground Sea and fire in Thoughtseize, and our opponent's going to have like 2 Nadus. I feel it in my veins. They could have a Veil of Summer here, but they are representing what looks like a Nadu combo, so we have to interact with them, otherwise we don't have a chance this game. Nadu midrange is actually a deck that's been punching above its weight. It's very, very low play rate, but it's got a reasonable number of top 8, so it ends up with quite a strong over-rep rate, which is something I sort of catalogue and post on my Patreon, if you're interested in that sort of data. Okay. So they're just getting more stuff in play first. Oh, do they really not have a Nadu? Wow, okay. What were they trying to protect? That's what I don't understand here. Right, Ponder, let's have a little look at you. I don't think this is where I want to be. This isn't any orange shuffle. So I could get back the Thoughtseize. That'd be trading my Tamiyo. But what are they trying to protect in their hand? 1, 2, 3. Like, we could just make a Murktide. That doesn't seem like a terrible use of our resources, does it? Maybe they're like protecting some sort of graveyard thing, like an endurance or whatever. But if they had Nadu, they would have played it last turn. So they clearly don't have Nadu, so we need to pressure them before they can assemble their combo, rather than reaching for disruption right now. A Brainstorm. We could have Brainstormed on their turn instead of playing the Delighted Halfling and maybe found the Nadu. I don't understand some of these lines. Obviously, we don't know what's in our opponent's hand. It just looks very peculiar from this side of the table. Can I have my friend? We can have a friend. All right, Tamiyo can go upstairs. We're getting close to popping this. A couple of turns time. If we pop with Tamiyo, then we win. So we've got 3 turn clock with the Murktide. Tamiyo's not under pressure because of its own ability shrinking our opponent's stuff. Do they find a Nadu? 2 colourless mana. Just like the One Ring, or... And this is Green Sun Zenith, isn't it? I see, that's what maybe what they were protecting. Trying to do a Green Sun Zenith around the Daze. Sure. So this is game over, I think. We're just going to scoop it up. We don't need to... Our opponent's going to draw, what, 16 cards? I don't think we're going to beat 16 cards. So now that we know they are a Nadu deck, things like Engineered Explosives, Fatal Push, Go for the Throat, this sort of stuff feels a lot more useful. Daze obviously better on the play, but I don't think that's where I want to be. Dauthi Voidwalker, they're not a breakfast deck, so we don't need those. And what are we trimming here? Take out one of the Murktides. Take out one of our reanimation effects. I think we still want the reanimation plan. It just goes over top of what our opponent's doing until they assemble their combo, right? All their mid-rangey stuff gets crunched by this. Maybe we can take out a Ponder. We still have this one-off Daze. I like a one-off Daze. Like a spicy one-off. Okay. Thoughtseize into Entomb Reanimate. Sign me right up. So you want to do the Thoughtseize first before our opponent has options to like Veil of Summer or move around cards with the Brainstorm. We get to see what they kept and then we get to mash it up. So it's probably the Ponder here. You just don't want them having much in the way of sculpting early on, because then they can dig for things like Force. Whereas now, if they have to dig, they have to do like a Brainstorm. So if we draw a land, then we're having a great time. If they deploy a card, then we have full information. They did not deploy a card. Okay. So they're probably just going to hold up this Veil. Right, we drew a land. Let's cast Entomb. Is this a Brainstorm moment for your opponent? It's going to get Atraxa. So now they are brainstorming. This is like a little window where they can try and maybe hit like an Endurance or something. Yep, so there is a Brainstorm. They got a hit here. And if it's a Daze that they're running, it sets them back and we just have another reanimation spell in hand. Do we get to have an Atraxa, or are you going to pitch your Teferi? Oh, they have an Endurance, pitching Veil of Summer. That is about the best situation our opponent can have right there. But this trade is still like a 2-for-2 trade, and they also chucked a Brainstorm, which obviously, you know, replaces itself, but that's a useful tool that they don't have access to now. Okay, they did find the Endurance. We were covered somewhat against Force. There is a Ponder. There is that Forest we knew about. Carpet Flowers, very powerful here. Yeah, I think we need a Brainstorm here. Let's move some stuff around. Not really liking these reanimation effects. I think we're looking at Tamiyo into Wasteland here to try and crimp our opponent's mana here, because they can't get the mana to cast something like a Teferi here because they can only get blue or white from Carpet. They can't get both, so taking out Tundra is actually kind of big there. Like they could cast something like a Nadu. White. Alright, just a plow. You can drop a Nomads in as well. They are, okay. I imagine this Teferi is something they're going to want hanging around anyway. Alright, Ponder. Do what you need to. Engineered Explosives, Entomb. These cards are pretty useful. I think I'm going to go Animate Dead, Explosives, Entomb. And the plan is to Fatal Push as Nomads. And then next turn we can Entomb Reanimate in one turn cycle and see how we fare. This is blue mana, so if they go for the Nadu, we obviously hit the Nomads in response. If they go for the Teferi, it's the same deal. So there is an awkwardness with the Teferi if it's just pluses, because it can bounce an Atraxa out. However, the Atraxa can just draw us a bunch of cards, which maybe gets us where we need to be. This is where not having the Archon in our deck is massively detrimental to us. I think we win this game if we have the Archon, but now I'm not sure we do. Like, we're obviously getting like a nice big gas up here. So what do we do here? Creature-wise, Murktide looks good. Instant-wise, it's probably go for the throat. Although we could take the Fatal Push, and that's cheaper. And then we can take Surveil land here. Sorry, Fetch land here. Do I want to play an Explosives on 1 so that we can blow up this Carpet of Flowers? I'm certainly thinking about it. I think I'm going to play the Carpet. Sorry, not the Carpet. The Explosives to deal with the Carpet. Our opponent does have access to this Teferi Bounce. If we'd have had an Archon of Cruelty, we get the Archon of Cruelty, they have to sacrifice their Planeswalker. They lose the one card they had in hand. It's game over. I think we're going to lose because we are running a slimmer reanimation package. I think the game is super over at that point. Because we can also, like, you know, just have a very easy time clocking our opponent quickly. We can afford to ponder around looking for wastelands and blowing stuff up. Thoughtseize. Okay, we can't really do everything. I think I would like to Thoughtseize and then just play a Murktide here. Take out your Nadu. Play our big boy. Teferi can't bounce this. Like, we might still win this game, even though we could have 100% won it if we had the Archon. So maybe this will be a sign that we don't need it. Right, they milled over a card. Teferi can go up 1, and then we can kill it. We can also reanimate like their Nadu. Although then they can bounce it to their hand with some stuff. Gets a little bit squiffy. They did not use Carpet Flowers ability. Cherry going upstairs. There is a Misty Rainforest. They went to tap the forest, which kind of made me think that they might have... Okay, Ghost Vacuum. That is not a thing they want to necessarily use. Because we end up with a bigger Murktide if they like eat our little bits. We also get to blow up all of their things here. So we can attack Teferi down. We're not going to fire off Explosives until end step. We don't know... Like, yes, we can take them off of Carpet mana, but they can cast any single spell in their deck, right? And maybe we get a situation where we can just jam in this Bowmasters and really ruin their day. Like if they draw... They put one card on top of their library. What would that one card be? Right, they're going to Ghost Vacuum their own card so they can assemble the combo for 6 mana. So it doesn't mean we have to blow this Explosives in this next turn cycle. But that's fine. We're either going to blow it at end step or we're going to blow it in our turn. But if we keep it around, then we can blow it and then also have a Fatal Push that's got Revolt. There is a Nadu Winged Wisdom. That's pretty good. This is going to be one of those turns where we blow the Explosives here. And then in response, we will Fatal Push their guy. Oh, did we not hold priority here? They're getting rid of this Fatal Push, which is going to grow our Murktide. I'm not sure that's the thing they want to do. They got a land out of it. Not so bad. So now we have a 9/9. This is a 2-turn clock. Force of Will. The Atraxa being in our hand now is no longer a detriment. I'm going to hold up this Bowmasters. I think that is better than just Animate Deading something. Maybe you don't need the Archon. Maybe we can just get there. What is this? A Green Sun for 4? Like, we're going to counter it basically wherever it is. And that should be the game, and the match, and the league. Alright, so we finished up with a 3-2. Not too shabby. Let's talk about the list. So, I've been saying for a while that as long as Entomb is legal, a blue-black Reanimator deck is probably going to be the best thing you can do in Legacy. And the stats of the last week or two have very much shown that's the case. And pretty much everyone is now playing these and trying to have to sideboard, like pre-board against other Reanimator decks of Dauthi Voidwalker. Now, we didn't play against other Reanimator decks where this would have shined. So that is an interesting thing to think about. We nearly lost the game because we didn't have the Archon, though. And the black-black of Dauthi Voidwalker is a real cost. One of the things that this deck is really good at doing is playing on basics, right? We get the basic lands, and then we're relatively protected. This encourages us to not get basic lands. So, you know, doing a Tamiyo into a Dauthi Voidwalker, you have to open yourself up to things like Wasteland a bit more. So that's another thing to consider. Now, Dauthi Voidwalker can also just sometimes win you the game by Thoughtseizing something juicy out of your opponent's hand. Like, we don't need to go over why this card is good. And if there's more graveyard stuff, why this card is even better. The one concern I have with this card is mainly the mana base and how it impacts us when we're trying to, like, start off, we don't necessarily know if we're playing against a graveyard deck or whatever, and this is like just going to be like a fair beatdown piece. Are we trying to cast this on turn 2? If we are, then we expose ourselves to the fairer decks that are going to be wastelanding us. So that is one consideration. Now, if you're playing this as a sideboard card instead, then when you board it in, you know what you're playing against, so you know that you're fetching your Underground Seas straight away instead of trying to fetch basics and play like your Tamiyos and Ponders with a basic land. Other than that though, like this deck is, you know, pretty much one of the best things you can be doing. I think there's a little bit of flexibility. It's the Dauthi Voidwalkers, the Animate Dead, the Fatal Pushes. Like those slots can change to different things, but the rest of it is pretty solid. Like I like having an Archon of Cruelty. It's nice to have a piece of removal as like a guy that you can go and fetch, especially since it hits Planeswalkers and stuff. So I would prefer to have access to an Archon. Like you could just trim one Dauthi for an Archon and that'd be fine. Like the deck is very, very powerful. Sideboard, we definitely had tools that I was reaching for. Like we lost to the Green-White Depths matchup, but we just couldn't find removal really. And you know, that's going to happen sometimes. And then the Karnforge deck, they kind of just exploded everywhere and we couldn't really contain them. Maybe we can add in like another Null Rod. I think having 2 Null Rods isn't the worst given how well the Karnforge deck has been doing over the last week or two. It's been putting up pretty good numbers. Like it's quite a low play rate, but it's got like triple the top 8 percentage than it has meta percentage overall, so that's quite a big overrep. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed seeing some more Blue-Black Reanimate. We have a banned and restricted announcement coming later on this month, so I guess enjoy Blue-Black Reanimator while we can. Who knows if we will actually get the Entomb ban that we've been wanting, and maybe we get the lovely little Troll of Khazad-dûm back. That's my hope. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.